Hello and welcome to The Last Word on Spurs. We hope you're keeping very, very safe and well. Thank you so much for joining us for instant reaction to Tottenham Hotspur beating West Ham United at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. If you're listening to the show for the first time, and where have you been? We're of course on iTunes, we're on Spotify, we're on Audio Boom, we're on a range of different audio platforms. We're of course on Twitter at Last Word on Spurs. We're on Facebook and Instagram too. And we are also delighted to be live on YouTube with Tottenham Hotspur winning in a massive, crucial North London derby. They gave them a promotion there. London derby against West Ham United. Delighted to be joined by three of our great returning guests, leading our Conte crazy train. Lee McQueen on the bottom right of my screen for some reason is in the house. Lee, how are you? Lovely to have you here.
Yeah, lovely to be back, mate. I feel like I've been away for about 4 weeks. I think it's only been a week. But yeah, absolutely superb. Great, good performance. Son and Kane show again. I think Benton Kerr was absolutely superb today as well. Big shout out to Romero as well. I did put a tweet out before the show saying who is your man of the match. So we'll get into that when that poll runs out a bit later on. I'm sure we'll get into all the details, mate. But yeah, fantastic to be back after what we can say now is back-to-back wins in the Premier League for the first time this calendar year, which is absolutely astonishing, but we've done it. Yeah. Come on.
Incredible. Yeah, it's bizarre it's taken that long to do so. Also delighted to have him back for this one. Listen, always loves to be on for the big games. I don't think we should give West Ham that title of big game. So pleased to welcome back to the show, as always, the wonderful Frankie Major. Frankie, lovely to have you here. Enjoyed that one?
I really, really enjoyed it. Fantastic. I think, didn't we beat Leeds and Everton back-to-back? We did, didn't we? With victories. So,
yeah. We did.
Yeah.
Today's performance was the most encouraging thing because I know at this stage of the season it is a results business. It's about grinding the results out, but it was the amount of control we had on a game, over the game. We had some outstanding individual performances within the collective, which was brilliant. Obviously, the Son and Kane show rolls on. I think that's 39 times they've assisted and scored with each other now. Is it 39 or 40? Incredible. And they're going to absolutely smash that record. But it's positive because this is a West Ham side who are resilient. I don't think they looked like winning the game today at any point. They had a couple of patches. And it's all to play for now. If you look down the stretch, you look at our fixtures, we've got a bit of momentum, confidence is there. And today, the one thing I noticed is they look like they were enjoying their football, which is something that they didn't look like they were doing at the back end of the Nuno era. So all positive from me. Can't wait to get into the show. Always nice to beat West Ham and come on you Spurs.
Always love to have a positive Frankie Major on the show. I know honestly, before this one, we spoke this morning, me and Frank, and he did give me a warning saying, depending on this result, he may go missing, but he is here in person and enjoying it and delighted to have him here. Also delighted to have him back on the show. We had him on for the reverse of this fixture. So isn't it nice that Spurs did get a result for him? Broadcaster and sports journalist for TalkSport, also on national radio on UK between 10 to 1 p.m. weekdays. We've got the brilliant Russ Williams back on the Last One on Spurs. Russ, lovely to have you here. Did you enjoy that?
Thank you. Oh, wow. To watch the game and for us to control the game, which doesn't happen very often, or certainly in the last year and a half, was something else. The only thing that worried me was every time West Ham got a corner, because we're not very good at taking them and we're not very good at defending them. I'm sure all of us would agree with that. But overall, I thought terrific start. Lovely that Zuma got an own goal. You know, the Premier League's #1 cat lover. Sonny with a couple. It was just a shame Harry didn't get a goal, because he would have scored for 5 consecutive Premier League games, and he's never done that before. And he nearly did right at the end, didn't he? But I think it was Doherty took the ball off his head. But anyway, hey-ho, he was brilliant today. The pass to Son for Sonny's first goal was magical, wasn't it? Crowd were great. It's all positive. Conte's work on the training pitch has paid off and will continue to do so. And I actually am quite confident for the rest of the season. More on that later. But yes, come on.
It. Isn't it lovely to have a real positive result to talk about? Yeah. And, lots of love for you, Russ, in the comments. So thank you so much for coming back on the Last Word on Spurs. And
thank you for asking me.
To talk about. Our pleasure is all ours. Pleasure is all ours. Lee, let's kick off the show with you. Spurs win. It's a huge result for Spurs now in that quest for a top 4 finish. We go up to 5th. 3 points behind Arsenal, who still, we know we have to play them. Likely that fixture is going to drop probably into May. It's 4 wins from 5 now in the Premier League for Spurs. And I thought what was really nice is at the end, all the Spurs fans sang Antonio's name. He applauded all 4 corners of that stadium. And you just feel like, Lee, and I know I'm going to put the mockers on this now, you feel like something is actually coming together. Bang, there's an international break.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not that worried about the international break. I quite like it, especially when some of the players, like Romero, for example, who's still going to be stand behind, because I just think Conte gets some time to work with him even longer. Do you know what I mean? So I actually think that the international break isn't a bad thing, although I appreciate the whole momentum piece and all that sort of stuff. I think what's really interesting is when Arsenal started the season, for example, under Arteta, and they were bottom of the league and we were top of the league, and I was getting carried away 100%. I was plastering the league table everywhere. It took time for them to get into their stride and to get into their way of thinking. And he had lots of stuff to do at that football club. He had to get out Uber and get out all this sort of stuff. And now everyone's been raving about him. If you actually analyse their results, they're not that brilliant. Like, to be absolutely brutal, they're not brilliant. They haven't, played, Man City and Liverpool off the park and beaten them and whatever. And I think that with Antonio, we had when he first came to a football club, we had a new manager bounce. Maybe I think it was 9 games unbeaten, and then we've gone on this like kind of win a game, lose a game, win a game, lose a game. And Frank's right, it wasn't Premier League. Sorry, it was cup game goes well in there, but it was like win loss, win loss, win loss. So to now maybe start of a run at the right time, we've got 9 games left now? Sorry, so we've got 9 games left, and if we win all them 9 games, we're right in the mix. I think it will come down to the North London derby, for example. But today there was players across the pitch today that I looked at and thought, wow. I mean, I have to say, Kulusevski, so I can't say, so I'll call him Decky. I think he's brilliant. I think he's been such a brilliant signing. I mean, Ricky, tonight, mate, you were absolute. I mean, I can't believe you only moved your hair out of place tonight. Do you know what I'm saying? You were absolutely, literally brilliant. I mean, there was a time when you got the ball and you just took 2 players out with one touch, and then we was on the counter, and it was superb to watch. So some really, really good performances against a team that, let's be honest about it, they absolutely love to beat us, don't they? They love it, and we've just taken them out of that race now, and it's now up to us. Our next home game, so our next game after the break is at home, and we've got to go and do the business. And I think the only thing I would say today about the kind of statistics, we have more of the ball than them, which weirdly enough, Spurs as a team don't tend to do that well at. Even though we were still counting, we still have more of the ball in them. And I think our opportunities or our chances created or shots on goal wasn't as many as maybe we could have had. So, sometimes I feel I'm going to be an ultra critical, everybody, but sometimes I feel a little bit frustrated when there is a pass that they can't execute. And I think that's maybe a lack of quality, or maybe sometimes they try to overpass. Or maybe that's just Conte just still drumming it into them, where we still need to improve in certain areas. But all in all, very happy. I mean, you can't be too critical after beating West Ham 3-1, can you?
No, absolutely not. No, I completely agree. Frankie, coming over to you, in the context, it's a massive 3 points for Spurs, and for all the talk of the inconsistency about the club, that's 4 wins from the last 5, as I mentioned. Son and Kane, once again, back to their brilliant selves. Romero, I thought, was immense on the day. I thought it was brilliant. And then this big battle for 4 that we mentioned, it does feel now Arsenal are firmly in their sights. Just how big a win is that, Frank, and the manner of that display for Spurs today?
Well, it's huge, and I think the momentum's been building now. If you look at our last 5 league games, we're very unfortunate to come away from Old Trafford without anything, which was unlucky, because I know we shot ourselves in the foot during that game, but it wasn't the worst performance that we've sort of put out this season. But it just feels to me, and I'm not going to get carried away, but you look at our fixtures, they're pretty favourable. You look at that week from hell that Arsenal have got, all the 3 consecutive games where they've got Chelsea, West Ham and Manchester United within the space of all back-to-back games. And I just feel that Kane started to hit his stride at the right time of the season, which is massive to us, because as soon as he started, since the turn of the year, really, he's really hit his stride. And I don't think there's another striker in the league in the form that he's in. And you look at the teams around us. I know obviously Manchester United have got Ronaldo, but I mean, Harry Kane, I've just read an unbelievable stat that since the beginning of last season, no player has assisted more goals in the Premier League with 19, which is incredible for a number 9. You look at Romero, very much a paradox in a sense that he's so aggressive off the football, but on the football, he's so calm and composed. The 2 new signings have added so much life to this squad. And there was a lot of talk when the January transfer window closed, and a lot of hysteria that fans were saying that we were weaker, because we were lighter on numbers. We sort of let go of 4 players. We've got 2 in, but it couldn't be further from the truth. We are far stronger with those 2 players in the squad now, starting every game and contributing. And for me today, the man of the match was Bentancur. I understand Son got the plaudits. He deserves them. He got 2 goals. Obviously, Harry Kane 3 assists. But let's just take away numbers. He ran the game today against a world-class centre midfielder in Declan Rice. We all know how good Declan Rice is. His composure, his aggression off the ball. He was superb. And again, he is another one now. It seems like these players, the ones that I've mentioned, Romero, Bentancur, Kane, they're all learning Conte ball. And it's all coming together at the right time. And we've got probably, in my opinion, this is the most momentum we've had over a run of 6 or 7 games. I know obviously the cup game was disappointing against Middlesbrough, but it just feels that we're starting to see patterns of play now. We're starting to see Conte's print on this side. We're starting to see an identity which we haven't seen for the whole season, really. I mean, it was a disaster under Nuno. So it's a big win today. The performance is probably more encouraging than the result. Obviously, we had to get the win, but within the context of the win, the performance was controlled. It was aggressive when it needed to be aggressive. If we're going to nitpick set pieces, defending set pieces, we have to improve, because we've conceded another goal from a corner today. But it just feels to me that things are coming together at the right time. I hope I'm right. I hope we don't sort of have a wobble now. I've said this, but we have got some favourable games. If we haven't got Chelsea and then Liverpool and then Manchester City. It is teams that you'd like to think we beat. We've got 1 game a week now, barring where the rescheduled North London derby, and that should be enough for us to cope with the squad. And one last player I'd like to mention before I move on to, or you move on to Russ, is Højbjerg, because we've been very critical of Højbjerg, even on the show this season. He has put in some pretty abject performances, and that's me being pretty polite there, but he's been superb over the last few games. When he's played with Bentancur, they're starting to form a nice little 2 there in the midfield. And we've got to give him credit, because he's been one of our better players over the last 3 or 4 games. And his form wasn't brilliant, was it? Coming into that.
No, that's fair. Yeah.
So again, as I said at the beginning of the show, there's been some great individual performances recently, but under the collective of a team that's forming an identity and playing some brilliant patterns of football. And we're not that far off it now. If you look, I think Lloris, if we could get a goalkeeper that could pass a football properly, so we could play out from the back and clip the press, and we've had these conversations before, but 2 top quality wing backs would change this team significantly. It would take us up a gear. So we're not a million miles away. And 3 months ago, it felt like we were 2 million miles away from where we needed to be.
Weren't a bad pass from Lloris for an assist of an assist, was it, tonight?
No, a pre-assist.
Kane to Son on the back of the net.
You know what I mean? I mean, in modern football, the way that Conte wants to play, and the way that a lot of these progressive coaches want to play football now, it's about passing out from the back. It's about clipping the ball to your wing backs. It's about being able to beat the press, as the more modern keepers, your Allisons, your even Ramsdale. He's good with his feet. And unfortunately, with Lloris at times, do you not feel, Lee, that when those passes go behind the back of players, or when he panics, it sets us back? The whole team has to drop 10 yards, rather than if we were more confident with him with the ball at his feet, the team could push up 10 or 20 yards, and it would be easy to play out from the back. Sometimes it feels like Dier has to take the ball off his feet because he doesn't trust him.
I'm obviously keen to bring Russ in, but I actually think that since Conte's come to the football club, Lloris's passing from that and that ability to beat the press has got miles better. I used to absolutely cack my pants when he'd have the ball at the back. I'm thinking just boot it up the pitch. But I think it's got, it still can improve, but I think it's got miles better. I mean, Romero tonight getting out of tight situations, Bentancur getting out of tight situations in kind of our own final third, if that makes sense, was brilliant. Some of the triangle or quick passes to get out of and beat that press have got a lot better I would say probably over the last 6-7 weeks, even just before, and I think that's because of Conte's methods are starting to work. That's why he seemed a bit happier as well in his post-match press conferences as well, because he can see that his methods are trying to work. I don't know what you guys think.
Just quickly, the one thing I'd say about his kicking, again, I don't want to nitpick because I don't want to be overcritical of these players because they are getting better. But what was he doing against Brighton where he pinged the ball in the back of Dier's head the other night? And I just feel that, again, if we're going to play this Conte ball, the age that Reece is at now, we need to start looking at a keeper who can, obviously, he's a good goalkeeper, but can also play. And I think it's imperative to get us to the next level, to close the gap between City, Liverpool and Chelsea. Yeah.
You've definitely feel long term that might be. Listen, it's got to be a position they're looking upon because Lloris has only got that obviously year and a half left of that contract. And obviously, I just know he's renewed, but the club I'm sure will be looking at that. Russ, to come around to you, Spurs finally breaking this win-loss cycle in all competitions, and ironically, it's actually 5 wins from our last 7 in the Premier League. And I said it to you off air. I mean, we know there's still problems that remain, notably that defending of set pieces and finishing our chances. But the great thing is that we seem to be creating a lot more than what we have done over the course of the last few weeks. And I think, again, what Lee and Frank have echoed is the fact that the players now seem to be having a greater understanding of the way Conte wants the players to play.
Yeah. Well, I think that Antonio Conte, and I agree with everything that Lee and Frank have said. I think Antonio Conte obviously has a way he wants to play. It's, we all know that. And it's about mentality, it's about application, it's about fitness, and it's about fight. And I think we saw certainly at Brighton and definitely today, those 4 qualities that are the embodiment, if you like, of Antonio Conte. I think we all also know that with 5 players added to that squad and the team, 2 wing-backs, maybe a goalkeeper, and incidentally, what about Jordan Pickford? He's a brilliant distributor of the football. He's been linked with us already. I agree that Hugo he's got a mistake or 2 and doesn't quite play the system that we want to play or Antonio wants to play. We need a midfielder as well. And we've often talked, and I was on the show before, I think with you, Frank, about, we need a locksmith. I'm just wondering whether Antonio Conte doesn't want a locksmith. He wants a battler, somebody who'll scrap in that midfield. I know we've got Højbjerg, of course, who's supposed to do that job. Bentancur can look after himself. Oliver Skip is no fool in the centre of the park, but a little bit of magic who can play that final ball in tight games. For example, when we were at Manchester United and we're very unlucky, I think we need someone there. And I think we do need a striker to help Harry Kane out. Where the big question comes looking forward for me is Antonio Conte will want the money. Daniel Levy, I suspect, will want the commitment from Antonio Conte that he's going to stay at the club longer term. And that is where Spurs could run into a little bit of a problem with Conte, because we've all been reading and hearing about the whispers, PSG want to talk to him, blah, blah, blah. And look, it would be a big attraction for Conte to go to PSG because he would have a genuine chance with that squad of players and the superstars they've got of winning the Champions League. If his ego goes for that, it might be difficult for Spurs. But, there is a sense, and I totally agree with what the commenters are saying and what the boys have said. We are improving. We've got a pattern of play to see us pass the ball so confidently in tight areas, in normal areas today. It was just an absolute joy to watch. In the first 10 minutes, though, before we scored, we were a bit sloppy with the ball. And that could have been nerves, but an early goal, as we know, calms you down, especially if it's an own goal from Zuma. Fantastic. I'm a cat.
Russ, I'm keen to stick with you, Russ, only because Conte in his post-match press conference probably said the line that all Spurs fans dread. I know you all know where we're coming from when I say this, that we've got 9 cup finals to go. Can we just not mention the word or the phrase cup finals, please? these obviously 9 to go now. Do you firmly believe, and we'll come on to it maybe later in the show, that there is now a belief within that squad that they can go on a run?
Yes, I do. And we were talking about it, Lee and Frank and yourself and myself, just before we came on the air with the show. If you look at our fixtures, really, if we can play like we play today and better and keep improving and get the rub of the green occasionally, I think we should be really confident that the key is, and Lee is quite sensitive about this, quite rightly so, and I think all of our viewers will be, where will they put the Arsenal game? Will they put it, as you said, Lee, 2 days after we played Liverpool? Well, if they do, let's get a couple of COVIDs. 2 can play at that game.
I think they'll save it for a Sunday, Russ, and move one of the existing fixtures midweek up, because it's just got Super Sunday written all over it. Do you not think?
Yeah, definite. Yeah, definitely. As long as we win, I don't care.
Yeah, I mean, they could move it to ever. Frankie, just a question we had in on it. Tony Rogers said he thinks you nailed the point about Lloris. So keen to know from your perspective, who would you bring in to help with free kick set pieces, taking and defending? Do you have a view on that? Goalkeeping-wise,
In goalkeeping wise, it's been mentioned in the comments, but a nice Simon from Bilbao fits the bill. I know you mentioned Jordan Pickford.
Yeah,
I'm not sold on Pickford, to be honest with you. However,
I can't argue with his distribution, Frank.
It's fantastic. If everyone were to get relegated, we could get him on the cheap as well. But I just think that if we're going to go long term, then we might as well, buy a proper one. And with regards to set pieces, obviously defending corners, I think the left centre back role, because I know we're going to get a left centre back. It's been the position that we've been linked with heavily, because we do need an upgrade on Ben Davies. We have to go for a tall one, because Romero's not it's probably his weakness, isn't it? His height and aerial prowess or lack of. So I think Pau Torres, who we tried to go for last season with Villarreal, I don't think they're going to finish in the European spots this season. 6'3" is he? Left-footed. So we need a tall lefty at left centre back and set pieces to take them. James Ward-Prowse, in my opinion, would be a Harry Winks upgrade. We've mentioned that on the show before. A lot of the fan base seem to be pretty happy with that suggestion. I don't know how affordable it is what I've just mentioned. Pau Torres, James Ward-Prowse and Unai Simon, probably the best part of £50 million. So it depends on what business can be done. But in an ideal world, those would be the players that I'd be looking at if, obviously, we were willing to spend the money.
Yeah. The thing is with like a JWP, the thing is with a JWP, he might be a big transfer fee because he's English as well, and Southampton with demand and whatever. But he is the sort of player that Spurs should and could be signing to make us better. Like there's other players that just won't come to Tottenham. They just won't. Like you look at I don't know. I know he plays in a different position, but you look at an Mbappe or a Haaland or whatever. You're dreaming like Jude Bellingham. They're not coming to Spurs. Like get real. They're not. But James Ward-Prowse would come to Tottenham. And I think it would be an upgrade on where he's at. I think he would flourish in that Tottenham team as well. And like Frank said, no offense to Harry Winks, but he's an upgrade on Harry Winks as well. And I think he'd be absolutely lethal. Well, we know he's lethal at set pieces. And, I was watching on YouTube the other night 95 away goals by Harry Kane. And the second one they pinged up was the Aston Villa free kick. That's the only free kick that he's ever scored. And you're just thinking some of these positions that we get in, and that's one of the reasons why we're getting lots of own goals as well. I think there's 10 own goals now that we've had as our third top scorer. Is because
flying.
Mate. I should have put them on as a man of the match, shouldn't I? Own goals. But we're getting in positions that enables that are getting into difficulties, so hence the own goals, and we're getting in positions where we're getting fouls in and around the box as well, but there's no one to stick them away. So look, for me, the Lloris thing's a difficult one because I think it is nitpicking. If I'm honest, I think he saved miles more points than he costs us, and there's other areas of the team that we need to improve before we need to go out and buy 50 million Jordan Pickford, for example, because that's the sort of money that we'd have to buy him for. So,
I do agree with that. I do, and thinking of Conte, I wouldn't be surprised if he looks at Bastoni at Inter Milan, who I've watched recently, left-sided centre back, good player, and the inevitable one for me, judging the comments that we saw recently, is Christian Eriksen. I think they're staying in the same hotel. Is that right? They're both living in the same hotel.
Yeah.
He's on a free transfer at the end of the season. I know he was missing today, but his recent form's been brilliant. He still plays passes that nobody in our squad can play. He sees things that probably, barring Kane, in our squad currently, he would add something. And you know, in the comments I'm reading, somebody just said about Ward-Prowse, would he start? That's not the point, because next season, if we want to compete on all fronts, at the moment we can't because of the size of the squad and the lack of quality that we've got beyond the starting 11. If we want to compete on all fronts, we need a bit of everything. We need different ingredients to balance the squad for different competitions, for different games, for injuries. So I don't think that would be an issue.
Just to bring it back to the game, Russ, coming over to you, you know, Conte said afterwards, I'm really enjoying the improvement that I'm seeing amongst the players, and I want to enjoy watching them play football. Now I can see that we're a really good team and we're ready to play against every opponent. Today it's very difficult to play against us. Obviously, there's definitely been a change in shift from Antonio Conte, and we are going to get into the game in more detail in a second. But have you noticed more of a calmer, more controlled Conte in the last few weeks in comparison to what we saw, of course, after that Burnley defeat? Do you think he is now starting to see essentially those raw ingredients that he wants from this Spurs team? Of course, we know there'll hopefully be obviously upgrades in the summer. We're going to back him. But do you feel on the whole now he is getting what he wants from this group of players?
Yeah, I think he's certainly happier. I mean, we all know that knocking Tottenham is a national pastime for most football fans in this country. And that's not me just feeling precious about our club. But it is really. I mean, I hear some total nonsense spoken about Conte, and he's going to be leaving. He wouldn't stay. You know, he's going to do a runner. I don't believe that to be the case at all. And he used the word delighted twice in the television interview with Sky after the game today. I've never heard him use that word before. And he smiled, and he looks like a happier man. Of course, he'd be really happy if he gets what he wants in the summer, and will be happy because he's going to stay. I assume that everyone thinks that Antonio Conte on the panel here is the right man to take us forward.
Hopefully,
because
no doubt.
I do. I mean, do you, Lee and Frank and Ricky, are you worried that he might go? I'm not.
Well, I mean, for me, I said before, you know, they've got to show him there's a sign of ambition there, because I think Conte is here to not just finish in fourth. I think he'll want to go into next season with a genuine belief that he can achieve more than fourth, that he can actually contest for the title. And I think it will come down to this summer, ultimately, whether the board will show him that backing. Because I think we're all going to know in the summer whether the board do just simply want to finish in the top four, and that is the only ambition. And therefore, I think they'll go crawling to Pochettino because they won't be able to match Conte's ambition, or they will back the man. They'll give him exactly the tools that he wants, and he will generally believe going into next season that he can win the league. And I think that's what the man's here for. You know, I don't think
like
Conte...
I said earlier. Sorry, Ricky. It's like I said earlier. I think it's going to be an interesting standoff, a friendly standoff between Conte and Daniel Levy and Joe Lewis, and it'll be a simple conversation. He will say, "I want this player, this player, this player, and this player, and we're going to have to spend this money. We're going to let this player and this player go and get a bit of money in, but you've got to back me." And then Levy will say, "Well, Antonio, we want to do that for you, but you're going to have to commit to us." And it's, who blinks first. That's how I see it. I hope I'm wrong and everyone's hugging and kissing. We're in the Champions League and everything's fine. But it worries me that
we need the positive domino effect, Russ, because I believe if Conte's happy, Kane signs a new deal. Yeah. And obviously, if Conte's happy, it means we're going to improve the squad and buy some decent signings. So we need to be. It needs to work out in our favour. We don't want it to be the bad domino effect where Conte goes, Kane wants to leave, and it falls by the wayside. We need the positive domino effect. And from what I'm reading and from what I hear, Joe Lewis is trying to source more investment into the club for that reason this summer. I'm not sure the complexities of it or the actual details, but that is pretty public knowledge that they are looking for some outside investment. And I believe that's for recruitment. So hopefully, fingers crossed, they back him.
Yeah, well, he's a smart operator, Conte. He's an experienced campaigner, and he won't mess about. And I don't think Daniel Levy's ever had a manager like that before.
Yeah, and I will say the last few interviews from Conte have been more positive, like he is talking towards more of a longer term rather than a short term basis. He did go on to say in his interview that I've seen great improvement about the mentality, but also tactically and technically from these players. We are starting to understand and manage 95 minutes in a different way. We are understanding the importance to win the game and manage many parts of that game as well. But what we will do, we are going to touch upon the game in some greater detail after our first break of the show. And for our listeners and audio, and taking you into that break for our listeners and audio, you are going to hear from Antonio Conte and from our really happy Heung-min Son, who gives you their reflections on the back of Spurs winning. Before we do go for that quick break, some listener statements around in here. Sam Lewis says, a massive win today. Finally back to back league wings against a proper team in West Ham. Darren Kay says, great control of the game, except still awful in terms of free kicks defensively, and we'll come on to that. And David Lynch says, another cup final defeat for West Ham. Operation Top 4 is now definitely within our sight. So we will go for that first break of the show for our listeners and audio. And what we will say for our watching audience on YouTube, there's 800 plus of you watching us live. So thank you so much for all of your incredible support. And you will know in the course of the last few weeks that we're absolutely delighted to be sponsored by NordVPN on the Last Word on Spurs. And Nord is, and I'm sure you've heard this already from me, a secure, fast, and ready to use VPN. They are the VPN in terms of the hurricanes, in terms of incredible in all facets, with device protection as strong as Christian Romero at the back, but the internet speed of Heung-min Son. They've got over 5,200 servers across 59 countries, and NordVPN automatically selects the best server based on your location, loads, and your specific needs. This is a great opportunity to save on the likes of YouTube, for example, where you can get YouTube Premium once you switch your location settings to the likes of India and Argentina. And also, a must-have for me personally, what I've quite enjoyed with this app is that if you're in certain locations, you can also flick between different potential channels wherever you are based to catch any potential football. And listen, check it out. We've got that obviously code we're using now, LWS. So that full website is www.nordvpn.com/LWS to get yourselves a huge discount and 1 month plus free and a bonus gift. So there you go. Last one on Spurs, always trying to give away treats. And
It's on my
Spurs,
phone.
there
It's
we
on
go.
my phone. There
Russ,
you go.
an avid user of NordVPN there. One of our own there signing up for it. There you go. Who needs to push it when Russ has got it himself? Right, brilliant. Well,
you can use Betfair when you're abroad, you see.
There you go, another link for you there. Right, we're going to crack on and we'll talk about the team itself. We saw, come around to you, Frankie, that Spurs named an unchanged side to face West Ham United. We must add Oliver Skipp, still out at the moment, but making progress. We're hoping he'll be ready after that international break. Ryan Sessegnon, still out for another 4 weeks. Javit Tanganga now out until next season, as he has now had successful knee surgery, so we wish him all the best. So that team read Lloris Romero, Dier, Davies, Doherty, Benson Cure, Højbjerg, Reguilon, Kulusevski, Kane, Son, with a bench of Galini, Roden, Sanchez, Emerson, Winks, White, Bergwijn, Lucas Scarlett. Frankie, it was same again. Was you happy with the team?
Continuity equals consistency. And I think he knows his strongest team now. I think even if Oliver Skipp is back against Newcastle, I think he'll go with this 11. It seemed that Sessegnon had got ahead of Reguilon in the pecking order, didn't it, prior to the injury? But
absolutely,
it's nice to have a settled side for once. And again, you can tell in the patterns of play, as Russ mentioned, the way that we're playing out of tight areas now, they seem confident in playing with each other. And one thing I have noticed as well is Harry Kane is very confident to give Kulusevski the ball in tight spaces. And it hasn't always been the case with Lucas and Bergwijn. And you'll notice it. And because he knows Kulusevski looks after the ball, he'll get the ball back. If he makes the right run, he'll get the ball back. And then he's slotted in seamlessly with Kane and Son. Such an intelligent football player for 21 years old. But it's not rocket science, Rick. It's been proven over time in football that if you have a regular starting 11, I know obviously now there's lots of football and you need a squad, but for where we're at, we're playing once a week. We're not playing 2 or 3 games a week. We're not in all these different competitions. It's perfect for us, and it makes sense. Now, the only thing we're positive on the show tonight, which is fantastic. We're confident. We're seeing this momentum. The only thing that could derail us are injuries, because unfortunately, if anything happens, God forbid, to Harry Kane or get 2 or 3 injuries, you peel back the layer of the first 11 and. We've said it many a times, and for most of the season, we're 2 or 3 injuries away from a disaster. But I'm hoping due to the fact we have only got one game a week now between now and the rest of the season, that that won't happen. Fingers crossed. But it's just nice to see that they're all clicking now. There's a bit of consistency with the team. We're seeing an identity, as I've said, and it's refreshing because it's been a long season so far. I think we can all agree on that one. Been pretty trying and testing at times, and it's nice that we seem to be hitting that momentum and seeing these patterns of play, in my opinion, at the right time of the season, the business end, with the running. So, it's positive, Rick.
Yeah, absolutely. Lee, coming over to you. Spurs, in terms of the start, obviously Russ referred to it, wasn't the most quicker start from Spurs, but we did eventually get going. We actually saw 5 tackles from Romero that were won in the opening 7 minutes, and that really set the trend for his ultimate performance. And we'll come on to him in a bit more detail shortly, but Spurs did take the lead. Matt Doherty won the ball back, put it into Harry Kane. Low cross that was put into his own net by Kurt Zouma, who all day was being constantly booed by Spurs fans. And there was many, many different inflatable cats we saw in the Spurs stadium. I think it's fair to say, did that ruffle him on the occasion, Lee?
Well, I did think the cat thing, the inflatable cat thing, not the actual kicking of the cat, the inflatable cat thing was actually very funny. That is the sort of banter that should, if you like, go around the football grounds. I thought that pressing part within, I think, 6, 7, 8 minutes in, after that little shaky start, was absolutely brilliant. They knew when to go, and when they did, and Doherty won that ball back really well. Look, Romero, I made a bit of a faux pas in the poll that I put out on Twitter for Man of the Match. I didn't put him on it. So I've got a load of stick, including from you, Rick, about what about Romero. So I will make a big play for him to say, look, I know we'll talk about him later on, but I thought he was excellent today. And in my little blue book of stats, courtesy of Stephen, that said it earlier, he didn't get booked today either. So he's very aggressive, very, very, and he didn't get a yellow card. So that's something that is always a bonus with Romero for sure. Kulu, strength as well, like to take, I think Russ, you said it earlier about giving the ball to him in tight areas and the confidence to be able to do that. He's brilliant at doing that. I mean, I'm in love with the bloke. Like, give me a ginger from Sweden. Like, talk to me. I'm loving the bloke. Absolutely, his work rate is strong. He's very, very good.
He's so ready for this league, doesn't he? He just looks so ready for this league.
Yeah, and do you know what, Rick? On that, do you know what makes me so convinced as well about the whole Conte situation? Is he going to stay? Is he going to go? And that sort of stuff. Is that when everybody talks about backing him. And we had this brilliant debate, not even a debate, actually, it's a good conversation that we had on the WhatsApp group over the weekend, didn't we, lads, about, transfer fees. So when everybody talks about backing Conte, and you've got, lots of people say we need 4 or 5 players, and I don't disagree with that. But also a lot of people say, well, we need 300, 400 million for that. But I totally disagree with that. We bought our entire back line for 22 million when we had Carl Walker, Danny Rose, Alderweireld, Jan Vertonghen. That entire back four was less than 22 million quid. Eric Dier's 3.5 million. He's still like a rock at the back for us now. And I could go on and on and on, right? So, the signings that we've made that we spent a lot of money on, Lo Celso, 45 million, Tunga Ndombele up to 65 million. They've been shocking. So it's not really just about spending the money. It's about finding the right players. Ndidi, Kante, Fofana, for example, at Leicester. They don't cost a huge amount of money, but they're really, really good. And I think Kulusevski and Bentancur come into that, Rick. I think they've been absolutely awesome. I agree with Ian on the screen now. Like, he comes alive every time. You think something's going to happen, and he could be deep in his own half, in his own final third, and you still think something's going to happen because he's going to go bang, 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 and he's up the other end of the pitch. And for all those people that said that he was like running in treacle for the first 20 minutes of his debut, looking back now, it's just quite comical. So I think he's been brilliant. I have to say, congratulations to you, Rick, because on the poll, and thank you to everyone that voted, 4,500 votes on the Man of the Match poll for Last Word on Spurs tonight. And Ricky Bentancur, you have won it with 45% of the votes, mate. So
there you go.
I think he was brilliant again tonight, mate. Absolutely superb. I should say.
I must say, coming over to you, Russ. I mentioned this point earlier that this own goals really seems to be tearing away now. Our third, highest goal scorer in the league.
What a player, Rick. What a player.
What a player. I must say, Russ, is that also down to good invention and attacking threat from Spurs that, we are seeing defenders make these mistakes? Or is this down to ultimately poor defending from the opposition? Russ, how do you view that in terms of
no,
today
the God of Football said, Kurt Zuma, cat abuser, you will give away an own goal. And so that's what happens. To be serious, I think our style of play going forward does, tempt defenders to take a few risks. And, obviously, occasionally that goes wrong. But another season next season we might have no own goals, to benefit from. I think it's just the way the cookie has crumbled. What Lee was saying there about paying big money for players. Of course, Conte is the sort of manager who just wants the finished articles in the team. So maybe with Kulu and Bentancur, obviously there was a knowledge of those players there, but I think Bentancur, we've absolutely stolen him, to be fair.
Yeah.
Fantastic work by Paratici and Conte and the chairman getting that one over the line without worrying too much. But I think that the players, we definitely need two wing-backs to play the Conte way. Greatest respect to Matt Doherty. It isn't going to work out at Spurs. I think we're all honest enough, and he's a lovely bloke, and I would have loved to have seen it work out for him. But something in that jigsaw for him isn't right. And Reguilon, today he could have had 2 goals with composure. Goes down too easily.
And Russ as well, against Brighton as well, could have 2. Because Kane weighed him in at least 3, maybe even 4 times in both of them games respectively. And I think I mentioned on the group, I think, if I'm actually baffled that Antonio Conte, given what he did with Moses, hasn't used, Steven Bergwijn and or Lucas Moura on either of them other sides. I'm baffled that he hasn't tried them out on that, because
maybe he doesn't trust him.
I'd be amazed. I'd be amazed if he hasn't tried that out in training. With the amount of what's gone on behind the scenes and just the lack of real invention on those wing backs, I would be really surprised. Bearing in mind, Conte has had the likes of Ashley Young as a wing back. Victor Moses. I can't believe that he wouldn't have tried them out in training.
Bergwijn scored them chances. He puts 4 goals past 2 past Brighton, 2 past West Ham today. If he's playing in Reggie's position, what I would say with Reggie is that he will get better at that. He is generally a fullback that is converting. Unlike a Doherty, for example, was actually a genuinely wing back that just forgotten how to play. I think that it's easy to sit here and say, oh, like I just said, Bergie would finish it. Maybe Cess. If Cess was on in them situations, we all saw the goal he scored against Bayern Munich. We won't worry about the result, of course, but he did score the first goal, didn't he? And it was a fantastic finish. And we see he's got that in his locker. And to be fair to Reggie, he has scored a couple of goals and assisted 3 or 4 this season as well. So he's not a terrible left wing back, in that way, but it does need to be improved. I agree. I think it's just. Earlier today as well, there was a Kane pass, and I remember I was with my father-in-law at home, so I didn't go to the game today because I'm on COVID watch. Not that I've got COVID, but I'm going to Florida on Sunday, and my wife said to me, "Do not go and get COVID anywhere because we've got to do a fit to fly test." So I'm like, kind of not allowed to get out. So I was watching the game, and he's a season goal at Chelsea. My father-in-law, and he was like, why aren't they going after that? Kane puts his ball in, and that was a bad ball from Kane. And I was like, no, that was a perfect ball from Kane. It's just Reggie didn't get in the box. Do you see what I'm saying? He didn't get in the box further enough because he's still tentative. Like you said, Russ, when he gets in the box, he's not clinical enough or not he goes down too easily.
He was at Sevilla. He scored goals, didn't he?
Yeah, that's one of the comments being made here. Yeah. Wes is there on the screen. Says Seville, he was banging the goals in for fun.
He's not used to being in these positions. He's a left fullback in a 4. So he's never been in as many attacking positions, in my opinion. I mean, I did see bits of him at Sevilla, but now he's getting into 2 or 3 a game, and it's not his strength, is it? We can clearly see that. So whether Conte thinks he can coach that into him, or whether the rumours are circulating that there's going to be a bid from Real Madrid in the summer, I trust Conte. But I just think that in that system, you need numbers from your wing backs with Conte ball, and I just can't see him putting up the numbers. I hope I'm wrong. I'm not saying he's a bad player, but you have to be a certain type to play wing back in this sort of a system where you rely on your wing backs for goals and assists.
Yeah. I think the positive, though, lads and viewers and listeners, if you think about it, is that he is getting in them positions to be able to score. That is now, if he wasn't getting in any of them positions, that would make you really worried. And actually, when you rewind 4 or 5 weeks ago, they weren't. Like Emerson Royale couldn't cross a ball for Toffee, and he hasn't really had a game since. Doherty wasn't getting nowhere near it, and he's had a bit of a spike in form. And Reguilon was being kept out of the team, 1 for COVID and 2 for Cess. And at least they've started to be progressive a little bit more in that way. So I'm hopeful of that.
Yeah, no, I think on him. So just quickly for that position, he's certainly got the engine to get up and down the flank for 90 minutes. So that's half the battle, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. Just for Jimmy's sake, Jimmy, I promise you there is going to be some love for Ben Davies. As much as I always laugh and joke that he's 6 out of 10, I promise you that will come very, very shortly. Have to talk about Spurs' second goal of the game. Russ, coming over to you, actually, coincidentally before that, Spurs should have gone 2-0 up. A great driving run from Kulusevski, to be fair. Before a 1-2 with Kane, and the Swede pulled it back to Son. The ball was slightly behind him, to be fair, but really outside of the right-hand post, should have scored. But Spurs did get a second goal. This one definitely was Sonny's, to be fair. Kane, and what we've now described as always, is almost like his trademark. Just unbelievable world-class pass. And then Son created that half a yard against Zuma and fired that dipping effort into the far top corner. And I think, Russ, to be fair, it was such an electric start to go 2-0 up in that fashion. I think we all couldn't quite believe it.
Well, yeah, because we were all nervous about the game, because I think the reality is whoever lost today probably isn't going to make the top 4. No. And, and if that happened to us, with the greatest of respect to West Ham, and we have to put up with that shower from down the road, making the top 4 without us even having a say in it, it would have been absolutely unacceptable. But thankfully, we're not in that position. I thought that the Kane pass, well, it's a Kane Son GPS, isn't it? I mean, it just works beautifully. They're the best in the history of the Premier League, aren't they? Now, better than Frank Lampard and the other fellow, I don't care, it's Chelsea. But anyway, to be serious, I mean, the ball was brilliant. And Sonny's been a little bit in and out in the last few games, really found his feet today and could easily have had a hat-trick. And we know what happened later on in the game. But to be 2-0 up, and we were really cruising until we gave a corner away. And it is a big problem. I think we all recognise that, defending set pieces and actually taking them as well. Why don't we have somebody different than Sonny taking the corners? He never beats the first man. Who's the coach for corners? Because we need to change the coach.
Well, this comes back to James Ward-Prowse's comment that we talked about earlier, isn't it? Because I 100% agree with you. Even going back to the Ericsson days, we never seemed to take a decent set piece. Never. We're never really a threat at set pieces. You look at the graphic that Sky put up earlier. For those of you that was at the game, they put a graphic up and it's like set pieces scored. West Ham scored the most set pieces or second most set pieces in the Premier League. And Spurs are just never nowhere near that. We're not a threat in and around the box with a set piece, with a free kick, with a corner. We're just not a threat. I know we scored against, in fact, Reggie scored, didn't he? The Dier free kick, and he got the rebound against
on the rebound,
earlier this season. But and then we have scored a couple from corners. But beating the first man, or being a threat, or being a nuisance, you know what I mean? Other teams come to us, and you look at the Burnleys or the West Hams or whatever, and you think, oh, they're a nuisance. I don't fancy giving away a free kick against them. But we don't seem to do it the other way. Which is frustrating. I've just seen a comment actually, Rick, in the comments. It's just gone up the screen, so I can't give credit. But they talked about if we were more clinical, we'd be flying. Our last 7 Premier League games, we've conceded 7 goals, but we've scored 19. I mean, that's bloody clinical.
Yeah,
in my book, that's incredible.
Could have scored a lot more though, Lee. Do you not?
Yeah, today we had we could have been 4 or 5 today.
That's probably the point. The comment that they were making in the chat. To be fair, so we probably could have scored more. So yeah, it's a fair point. But 19 goals a very good return over the last seven Premier League games.
Yeah, and obviously we've seen that goal difference shoot up, to be fair. Frankie, coming over to you, just to touch more upon that second goal. I mean, the pass from Kane, a lot of people said it's just world class. Some said it, De Bruyne arrest, people would go on and say maybe, he's arguably better than De Bruyne in some of his passing. But now that for Kane recalled his 50th assist of his Spurs career, him and Heung-min Son now have combined 38 Premier League goals, extending that all-time Premier League record for goal combinations. I mean, the telepathy they have, Frank, is just quite remarkable, isn't it, those two?
Russ summed it up with the Son and Kane GPS. I love that. They know each other's game. They played a lot of games together now. The interesting comment after the game, I watched the interviews on Sky, was that Son was really disappointed that Kane didn't get his goal. And I think that shows you the partnership they've got. It's not always the way. Strikers and goal scorers tend to be very greedy, but he was, they want each other to score. They want each other to do well. And not many players can see that pass. And as I said earlier in the show, the most assists in the Premier League since the beginning of the last season comes from Harry Kane. And you look at all the hysteria we hear about, which is right, to be fair, and the praise that Trent Alexander-Arnold gets, Kevin De Bruyne gets, but he has more assists. He plays for Tottenham, not Liverpool or Manchester City. So I just think it goes to show he is such a world-class player. For me, he's the best striker in the world. Lewandowski and Benzema can't play those passes, hence their assist stats. It's reflected, and they play again for Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in a less competitive league, in my opinion, for the biggest teams in those leagues. So, we've run out of superlatives for Harry Kane. We could do shows still now. We could do hour and a half shows on Harry Kane because he's that special. And I was pleased for Sonny today because he's had a bit of stick recently. I personally have said that I felt that perhaps he's been a bit running to the ground. He doesn't look himself. And to be fair to Son, even when his approach play looks a bit scruffy, and the link-up play, again, approaching the box in the area, it's not always at his best. He is a numbers freak. He still puts up numbers. That's now his 12th and 13th Premier League goals this season, which puts him joint second behind Mo Salah.
Yeah.
The eye test will tell you that he hasn't been at his best if you look at the games, but his numbers are still there. And I think that once he gets that spark back, because he's definitely not been as good as we know he can be, which is probably a testament to how good he is, he can go on an even further level. And I think under Conte, if we do build a better team around him, I'd be very interested to see what numbers he could put up in a proper functioning team that play good football and provide him with lots of chances, because it could be pretty scary.
Agreed.
I mean, that touch that Son took down after Kane's flick on for the third goal for his second goal, which is absolutely ridiculous. I mean,
confidence, isn't it? Do you know that his confidance with Son? You could just see there he was in full flow, wasn't he, Son? Didn't have to think about it. And that's with Son. Instinct, he's superb on instinct.
That is the bit we talked about this last week, didn't we? When he has too much time to think about it. It was interesting to hear Jermaine Defoe. He was on a panel with Sky today. Absolute legend. Him talking through from a striker's perspective. He actually said going through on goal in that situation, you've got loads of time to think about it rather than it being instinctive. So I thought that was quite interesting to hear. But the way he took that ball down and just knew what he was going to do with it, that's what makes you so frustrated with Son when he doesn't do that, when you know that he can. Does that make sense? So you almost become
the ability's there.
It's the same with Kane. Like there was a comment earlier in the comments, about Kane's passing maybe being a little bit off today, even though he was really good. And I kind of understand where they're coming from with that comment. Is that, but the thing is, they're trying stuff. It's like Bentancur. Bentancur loses the ball, and he lost the ball a few times today. But not only does he not go and win it back, but he does brave stuff. That forward pass from Bentancur to release Kane for Son's goal, that is such a brave pass for me. I think at the end of the day, it could have been cut out by Declan Rice, I think, if you're going back and look at it. But some players wouldn't play that ball. But it's because if you're being brave, you're almost taking a chance, aren't you? You're taking a risk because you're being brave, and therefore it can be cut out, or you might not lose it, or you might not be able to execute it. But you've got to look at, I think, as football fans, is to go, we're doing the right things, we're seeing them improvements. And that's why I think Conte as a whole is now looking at it saying, okay, I've got them thinking the way that I want them to be. sometimes they're not going to be able to execute that. Like Reggie's not going to score a hat-trick, right? But maybe he will in one of the big games later on. Maybe we go away to Liverpool and he scores the winner, and all of a sudden these misses against Brighton and obviously West Ham today, they get forgiven. Do you know what I mean? So I just think it's about being brave and being in them positions, and that's what I see that we've changed quite a lot over the last few weeks.
Absolutely. Martin in the comments says, can we talk about Højbjerg's chip pass to Kane? That was almost Hodder-esque. It was incredible. It was genius, wasn't it? Yeah, it was such a shame. We will talk about Højbjerg in a bigger piece because I think, we've said there, Frankie mentioned it earlier, he's really come on in the last few weeks. But Russ, to bring the tone down slightly, unfortunately, we have to talk about West Ham getting back into the game. They hit back from a corner, flicked on the back post. Ben Rama, just completely unmarked. Had so much time to volley it past Lloris. I think you could be honest and say there, Doherty seemed to lose his man. But the concerning aspect will be, Russ, that 4 of the last 9 Premier League goals now have been conceded from set pieces. We just can't seem to eradicate this problem, can we, Russ?
No, there was 3 West Ham players on the edge of the area. Ben Rama was one of them. So I think they work on the theory, and it obviously works for them, that there'll be a flick on or somehow the ball is going to come to one of those 3. It happened to be Saïd Benrahma, and he did adjust himself. It was an absolutely brilliant finish with power. And, it's just, we Spurs fans, we like watching good football, and we do recognise when somebody is playing against us actually does something that's quite good. And that was a really, really good goal. And it was a question. And what impressed me was the way we reacted after conceding that goal. In days of old, we might have gone a little bit wobbly and been caught again before half time. I mean, how many times as Spurs fans, said, we can just get to half time at 1-0 and then it's 1-1. Or, we're 2-1 up. Oh, no, we've just in stoppage time in the first half. It's 2-2. But we got to half time. We knew that West Ham would come out and have a little bit of a go, or we thought so. And actually they didn't, because the management of the game, as we've all talked about, the passing, I thought, was some of the best passing, intricate passing, intelligent passing to the right people in the right areas of the pitch, first touch passing. I thought it was really good for most of the game from Spurs today. Not only Harry Kane, but Bentancur, who could easily turn out to be our Pirlo going forward. He really is that good. And I'm so happy he got man of the match, because when he came to the Premier League, I don't know what you think and the viewers think, he was off the pace. I don't think he quite understood how quick it was. But boy, in the last 3 or 4 games, he's become a firm fan's favourite, and absolutely justifiably as well, because he's some special player. He's not particularly big fella, he's not super duper mobile, flash, but he's got those little bit of magic in his boots, and that's what we need, and that's what we've got, and it's great.
What's interesting, if we just come in there, Rick, sorry, what's interesting on that, Russ, as well, is that he's 24. So, we got him for 15 million. He's 24. I think Højbjerg's 24 or maybe 25. He's not that old himself. I think we paid 15 million with Kyle Walker-Peters the other way. And Ricky, the man himself, he's won 3 Serie A titles, isn't he? He's already won 3 top titles. So we talk about wanting winners in the team and wanting people that will come and bring that mentality and all that sort of stuff. And he's got it, and he's still very, very young. It's not as if he's like 31 years old, and he's going to have to spend 50 million on him. 15 million, 24, 25 years old. I think I put this in the group the other day when I was watching the show the other day. I think our average age of our team, even with Lloris in it, is like 26 years old. And I say even with Lloris, obviously he's in his 30s, right? You take him out of the team, I think it goes down to 25. So everyone raves about Arsenal, these young guns. We've got a young team as well, and we've got players in our team that are hitting a peak performances, like 28. Kane being 28, he's got 4 or 5 years ahead of him that is just going to be like is creme de la creme. So I think we've got the basis, a real good basis of building something. And that again, that's back to the point you made earlier. That's why I don't think Conte's going to go, because he can see that there's something building here. These. Win, loss. Go and have a look at Pochettino's first season. And it was his full season as well. He also had a full pre-season before that season. Go and have a look at it. It's exactly the same. Go and have a look at when we finished in the top 4 in the Champions League final season, 2018-19. Go and have a look at how many losses we had that year. We lost 13 games that year, and we drew 3. Guess how many games we've drawn so far? 3.
Mad, isn't it?
Very similar.
Yeah.
It's very similar. Like it can still. I know we've lost 10 games already, but we can definitely still go on and have a very, very good season, even by losing another. So I think I've got us down to lose 2 games and still get in the top 4.
Just on Bentancur quickly, and this is from Statman Dave on Twitter. 103 touches today, 100% of his tackles won, 100% accurate long balls, 100% take-ons completed, and 95% pass accuracy.
Wow.
That's
outrageous.
Wow.
He totally bossed it, mate. 100%. Brilliant.
There was also one point, I know you guys probably saw this, where he did that almost crazy pirouette where it was on the edge of his own box and he sent 2 West Ham players the wrong way. And everyone in the stadium was kind of held their breath for the moment, thinking, what have I just witnessed? It was just remarkable.
That's what I'm saying about being brave, though, because in that instance, some of us start thinking about Timothy Atuba, thinking, oh my word, like he's taking people on his own box.
Or Sergio Aurier. Yeah.
The other side of that, because he was brave and the move worked out, he actually sent us on an attack. We were then away, and he got away, put 2 West Ham players out. And that is, when other players like, I don't know, the likes of Phil Foden or, a Mo Salah or whatever would do that, people rave about that. And we should be proud and talk, proudly about that, because he was brilliant, absolutely superb today.
I totally agree. Right, what we will do, guys, is we will go for another quick short break for our listeners on audio, and then we're going to touch upon some of the player performances, as we've already kind of touched upon here, because there were some really good shows there from today from some of those players. But before we do, Russ, I must discuss one incident with you that we've seen quite a number of times throughout this footballing weekend, and it was we saw 2 people attempting to run onto the pitch and attach themselves to the post of the West Ham goal. To be fair, the Spurs stewards, I mean, they did react really quickly and just grabbed them before they could do what they were intending to do. Then a third tried at the other end. And then from a good friend of the show, Ali Gold, we understand a 4th person actually tried it, but actually got...
Really?
A 4th person tried it, but they failed by the advertising holding. Spurs, the stewards caught him just before he made the dash attempt. But in a weird way, Russ, do you think that almost helped us? It kind of broke up the game where arguably West Ham were trying to build some momentum, ironically.
Yeah, maybe. But similarly, you could say that we were actually playing really well and stop-start, West Ham, they're a bit tired. Yeah. I mean, I did know about one village idiot in the stadium. I didn't realise it was 4. I'm just, it's beyond belief what they're trying to do, sort of, handcuff themselves to the goalposts. I mean, it's a curious hobby to have, isn't it? Really.
I thought the weird one was that Everton one, the size of those shears that came out. I mean, you thought the bloke was...
Great.
It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, subsequently from there, Spurs sticking with you, Russ. We did go on to make it 3-1. It was it was really. I mean, that was real routine, wasn't it? Really old-fashioned routine 1 stuff. Lloris.
It was a big Sam job. Yeah,
it was, wasn't it? It was a real big Sam goal. Long hoof from Lloris. Kane heading it on, and Son, to be fair, as Lee mentioned earlier, Son in that confidence from scoring earlier in the game. Yeah. I think that did him the world of good. And it was weird because West Ham, I don't know what you thought, Russ, they played that really weird, high line. And they were cut apart again. Was you surprised by how high West Ham played that line today defensively?
Well, I think they were obviously thinking about pushing up, trying to get an equaliser, but they just couldn't put us under any pressure at all. I remember thinking when Andrei Yarmolenko came off the bench, oh my goodness, things happen in threes. He got 2 goals in 2 games, and it was, absolutely funny. Somebody just said that the pitch invaders had more movement than Giovanni Lo Celso. So well done, Raj. Totally agree with you. Anyway, I digress. I just thought that, hey, we'd spoken about Hugo. He looked up. He thought, well, I'm going to kick it long. He never used to do that. Or if you did kick it long, it used to go out into touch, didn't it? Back in the bad old days. And it was a brilliant touch from Sonny. It was right on his game, as the boys have said. And, enough time to think about it. Maybe for some people, if you're a striker, playing for a football team, it's too much time. Not for a pro like him. Absolutely brilliant finish. 87 minutes. game over. Even we couldn't mess that up, and there was no danger. And 3 points are ours, and now we're marching, and it's great. It's really exciting.
Yep. There you go. Crackers, one of our own there. Absolutely loving the golden tones of Russ Williams. A quality panel tonight there.
Thank you.
From Mr. Crackner. I know he had Harry Redknapp during the week. I just said to Crackers, gutted we didn't get that on a video or some kind. It would have been great to watch it back. So I know Crackers, as always, not Crackers and Redknapp in a room together. Can you imagine how good that would have been? Unbelievable.
It would have stopped them talking. By the way, Ricky, can I just do a very personal message to Gareth Southgate? Gareth, great to have you watching the show. Do not pick Harry Kane for those international friendlies. Do not think about it.
I think he'll only play one of those, Russ. I think he'll play one of those two.
No, he shouldn't do. It's stupid. No, if he gets a bad injury and ruins our season for playing against Ivory Coast, in a meaningless friendly, really, 6 months before a World Cup, no, not for me.
And the thing is with Harry so far, go on, Frank.
Look what Liverpool and Chelsea have done. They've pulled Reece James and Trent, and unfortunately, Kane, he's got the record in sight, hasn't he, Russ, for the England international most goals. And I just think that you're not going to stop Kane, even if Conte said, "I don't want you to go." He's the captain. He's got 5 goals away from the record now, or something like that.
Yeah,
it's a tough one with Kane because we'd all prefer him to not go. It's pointless.
You get those in the World Cup in the semi-final. Those 5 goals.
I know, mate, but you know what he's like.
I know.
Frankie,
I prefer it if he didn't.
Yeah. Frankie, just to stick with you for a sec, I just want to ask you about, obviously, Sonny back in form today. It's funny because obviously Conte was, heard earlier last week saying that it'd be crazy to drop Son. And he went on record to say after the game that during the season, there are periods where sometimes you have a lot of confidence and sometimes you try everything you're able to do. And sometimes that confidence can go down. The important player is good to manage in that moment. He said, we're talking about a very good player, but at the same time, a good person. He suffers if the performance is not good, but especially if we don't get the 3 points, this must be the first thing to think for the team, not for ourselves. Frankie, in any point of the last few weeks, were you considering to drop Heung-min Son, or is that practically impossible given the lack of depth we have got on that bench?
Well, I think it's the latter. I think that if you bring in Lucas or Bergwijn, they're nowhere near as prolific or deadly. And during his bad time, there were calls for him to be rested. I think over the last 3 to 4 years, we have run him into the ground, really, Son. He's played a lot of football. So, it does take its toll. And obviously, after he had that really nasty hamstring injury, which put him out for a while, it's hard to come back from that for players, particularly those who are based on explosive pace. That's what his game's based on. So the whole pattern of coming back and your whole pattern of your rhythm of sprinting and all everything that goes with it is obviously difficult. But I think that Conte done the right thing. He's backed him. He's given him confidence. He's been very vocal in the media to say that he's undroppable. He's my guy. And basically laughed off suggestions that he needed a rest or he needed to be taken out of the team. And I think it's paid dividends today. And he's given Son all the confidence that he needs. And he has looked a bit knackered. But I hope now that, because obviously the World Cup's not until the winter, so I hope now this summer he can go and get a nice rest, Sonny, because he probably needs one. As I said, he has played a lot of football over the last few seasons, but his numbers are there for all to see. We need him. We need a fit and firing Son. We need him in our team. And as I said, I think you can put up with the fact that his approach play is quite weak at times. And you're right, Rick, in a sense that it has to be, when he has to think about things and the game's in front of him, that's not his strength. His strength is doing things reactive and off the cuff. But
off the cuff,
you need Son in this team. If we've got any chance of getting top 4, you can't be taking Sonny out for a couple of games, can you?
Yeah, absolutely. I know someone picked up already in the comments, Lee, coming over to you. Conte chose to name check Dane Scarlett in his post-match press conference. Said, this guy's improving a lot. He's only 17, but he's a really important prospect for Tottenham. I see a brilliant future for him. Mourinho actually thought the same as well. Just wonder, Lee, any chance you think Conte might throw him in towards the end of the season, given the nature now of just how high the stakes are for Tottenham going for a top 4 finish? Can you see that being a possibility?
No, if we had some other games, even at this end of this time of the season, if we had other games, League Cup would have already been gone. You're now in the semi-finals of the FA Cup. Obviously, we're not, but you wouldn't be throwing Dane in that. and you're obviously now in the quarterfinals, stroke semi-finals of the European competition. So I can't see that so far. Well, I think it's lovely to hear though that he rates him. I mean, look, he's 17, so he's got a long way to develop. And obviously, one of our own, John from Little White Rose and Chris Callan, actually, they both go and see them down. Training the Hotspur way, and watching all the under 23 games and whatever, so they're a better place. But I just can't see that. I think that I think Frankie said earlier, and Russ mentioned it as well, continuity in the team selection. He's going to go again. He's going to, even if Skippy's fit, I think as Frank said earlier, I still think he selects the same 11 as who played today and who played against Brighton and who played against Manchester United. I think that starts to breed it. So I can't see it, but it's good to hear that we've got a very, very good young prospect in and around the first team and coming through our academy again, because there will be a time where we need to replace Kane. It won't be next year, so don't worry about it, people. But he's maybe he's certainly one for the future for sure. But we've got a world-class coach like Jose Mourinho and a world-class coach like Antonio Conte, both saying that this boy can play. It can only be a positive, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Russ, I want to come back around to you and ask you about Christian Romero. Now, we know the situation with Romero, that he's obviously desperate to not get one of the 2 yellow cards that will see him suspended for 2 matches, and he's obviously got to avoid getting them before the cut-off game, which I understand to be the Brighton match. So, I mean, today, I said in the opening few minutes, I think he made 5 tackles in the opening 7 minutes. It was just incredible. But he did so with some perfectly, again, great moments of defending today. What are you making about him, Russ? Because Conte has kind of said out that he needs to improve. Is there elements of his game that concern you at all, Russ? Or do you think we've got ourselves a real decent player here?
If he was a racehorse at Cheltenham last week, I'd have put some money on him. I think he's a thoroughbred in the making, without a shadow of a doubt. I think he's got a bit more than a lot of central defenders have got. I think he's got very, very quick, good feet. He's got a brilliant football brain. And because he's still young and he's another one getting used to the pace of our game still a little bit, he's going to make the odd mistake. But I totally agree with you, Rick, that the yellow card situation, that is really worrying, if he can't get up to that cut-off game and get through it, because we would really miss him. He's another one like Ricky, he's every game is just becoming part of the absolute fabric of everything that we do as a football team under Conte. And, he is so important, and he scores goals as well, as we know. And that is another fantastic attribute for a player in his position to have, not own goals, of course. No, in the right goal. So I think he's been utterly amazing. Yeah. Since he's been at the club, and I think he'll get better and better and better and better. And look, we're all thinking great things about him, all the viewers and the listeners and the panel. And he didn't play for quite a while because he was injured. So it tells you how good he's been. Yeah, I mean, for me,
bonus as well. And Rick, sorry to interrupt. You've got a bit of bonus as well. I think Frank, did you say this on the group that he's not going to? He ain't been called up for Argentina's international.
Suspended.
Sorry, buddy. Yeah, so that's got a bit of bonus.
Oh, well, suspended because of they played in that Brazil match. Do you remember?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
So that's got a bit of bonus for Spurs. So at the time it was a nightmare, but now you're looking back and you're thinking, actually, we get a bit of benefit for that now.
Well, we deserve a bit of luck off through an international break for what we've had, particularly in the early part of the season. We're owed it, mate.
I must say, Frankie, though, you said very early on we've got a player here. Do you have any concerns? I know Jason, Jason's regular on the show as well. He said that it's just that element of having that control that he will get over time in the league. Is that still an area that you have a concern over, or do you think his quality will outweigh that doubt in his game when it comes to knowing when to make and commit to those challenges?
I think it will come with age and experience, although he has got more experience than many think in the Champions League with Atalanta. He was also a Copa America winner. Lionel Messi has waxed lyrical about him in the past, saying he's a great defender. He will be one of the world's best. So that's not a bad compliment, is it, to have from probably the best player of all time? And I just think it is age and maturity. I like the fact that he's got that devil in him. I think we've, as Jose said quite famously, we have been a bit too much of a nice team, and he's not nice. he must be horrible to play against. And I like the balance he has, because he, again, I said earlier, he's a bit of a paradox in a sense that he's so super aggressive off the ball, but on the ball, he's calm and elegant. He can step out, he can link the play. He plays some nice patterns, and he plays well under pressure as well, coming out of defence.
Yep.
And I think that you can't take too much of that away from him, because, okay, he has picked up too many silly bookings. We know that, it's pretty obvious. But I think if you take that part of his game away from him and tell him to calm down, I think that takes away what his strong attributes are.
Yeah,
We need that. It's the Premier League. You have to be aggressive. You have to be.
Yeah, you do. Also, he has done something that we haven't seen from a Spurs defender for a long while, and that is get in the face of somebody who's just scored an own goal, Harry Maguire, an opposition defender, and let him have it verbally. You know, we're too nice.
Yeah,
we've been too nice for a few years now, Russ. We have. And I think that we need that in your team. You need that, and all the top men talk about. You need in the Premier League, particularly. You need to be aggressive, and as long as it's being aggressive in the right places and not giving away too many silly free kicks in dangerous areas, knowing how we defend them, I'm happy with him at the moment, and I think he's going to be some player when he peaks.
He's only 23, Frank, as well. I mean, it's incredible. He's only
centre half. That's young.
Yeah, for sure.
For a centre back.
Yeah, I mean, I know lots of people are wondering what's coming next about Ben Davies. And again, listen, I've got to say, another real solid performance from Ben. Again, there will be doubts over some whether, you know, he's the long-term solution for Spurs next season. And obviously, Frankie, you mentioned earlier that you think Spurs will eventually go for, you know, a predominantly, I'd say, more quality left centre-back. But in terms, let's come around to you, Russ, in terms of what Ben Davies has brought to the table this season so far, is that a definitive area for you, Russ, that Spurs have to look to upgrade in terms of Ben Davies?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. He's not going to do it for me long term with the ambitions that Tottenham Hotspur and we have for the club, and we hope that Antonio Conte has got, you know, for the club. He's a good player. He's not a very, very good player. And, you know, I'm sure he's a lovely bloke and he's a great pro. And
yeah, I mean, listen, we saw
international
celebration. It obviously meant the world to him, that third goal today. And listen, we love that, right? We love obviously that emotion.
Absolutely. But, you know, if we want Groundhog season after Groundhog season, when we got one of the best managers in the world, and he says, Ben, thanks very much. You know, you're a squad player now. I'm bringing somebody in. I think we'd have to trust him, and I think he will do that. I think he will. I would personally, and that's no offence to Ben at all.
Yep. Interesting. I mean, boys, very quickly on that. Anyone disagree with what Russ says there about Ben Davies?
No, we need, as I've said time and time again, we need a tall left-sided centre-back, obviously left-footed, but somebody's good in the air, because we're too small. We're too small at the back. And
would you be happy, Frankie, if he drops back in as a squad player? You're happy for Davies to drop back in squad player next season?
I'd rather have him as backup than Sanchez. I'll be totally honest with you. Regardless of that little purple patch of form that Sanchez had for a few games, I think he's less of a liability, and I'm happy to keep him as a squad player. But we've got aspirations again. If we want to close the gap between the three big teams in this league, you can't have Ben Davies as your starting left centre back. It just is what it is. It's the matter of fact. And as I said, for the issues that we have with set pieces, this left-sided centre back has to be a tall one. He has to be good in the air.
Interestingly, obviously, come around to you, Lee. Eric Dier, you know, has obviously been back now for several weeks, to be said. You know, he's played well, you'd say, on the whole since he's come back. Can't think of too many mistakes that you could really pinpoint at Dier. Looking ahead now, do you still think Dier works next to Romero long term? And like Frank says, we're going to bring in a left-sided centre back. Is that still predominantly Dier within that back three for you?
For me, it is. Yeah, I mean, I think that he would have probably been one, certainly in the group. I'm not naming any names, Rick, but certainly right at the beginning of the season, I think you'd have had him out the club. I think a lot of fans would have a lot of liability.
I had real reservations, so happy to be wrong.
For sure. I think we all did, right? To be fair, all jokes aside, but I think the same with Ben Davies, that Ben is definitely improved in the system, and it worked with him, and he's improved, but he's not the long term. I think with Eric Dier, it's slightly different. He's definitely improved, and he is a leader. And again, when we talked about Dane Scarlett, and Jose said it, and Conte saying it, and Poch has said it, or whatever, Dier has been said about the same with all of them managers as well. Do you know what I mean? And there must be something that goes on there. I think there's a Terry Butcher about him, obviously this week with the whole bandage around his head and all that. He wants to put it out there, and he is a leader on the pitch. And I think if we were playing a back four, I don't think Dier should be anywhere near the team personally. But I think in a back three, he works really, really well, having the Romero on one side and Ben on the other. And I think when we do upgrade that left centre back, I do think they need to be a left footer. I'm going to contradict what I say in a minute about when I talk about Rudiger, but I do think it gives us so much balance on the left with a left footer there in that three. And I just think Dier feels so much more calm and comfortable in the back three. And obviously we know that's how Conte plays. And I think that there's other areas in the team that need improving before we start getting another replacement for Eric Dier.
Yeah, I mean, Russ, coming around to you, there's a lot of Spurs fans frustrated this week that Dier hadn't made that England squad. I mean, for me personally, I don't really mind him not making the England squad, because if he's going to be featuring in the Spurs team regularly, the less games he plays for country, if I'm being really, again, Spurs is my priority. So I'll be honest with you, again, I don't mind him not playing for England, because I think, Dier has now found himself to be crucial to Spurs in that starting 11, and, Conte seems to really like him. Do you have any doubts over him, Russ, at all? Do you think now he's firmly got himself a spot in that 11 beyond this season, next to Romero, with, as Frank has said, the addition of a left-sided centre-back?
Chances are, yes, Rick, and I agree with what Lee and Frank were saying, that in a 3, absolutely. In a 4, probably not. He's definitely improved, there's no question, because as we all know, he wasn't playing in the defence a few seasons ago, had aspirations elsewhere on the pitch. And as far as England goes, why wouldn't he get into the squad? I think he's been playing well enough. And let's face it, he did score that penalty that exercised all those ghosts. Gareth Southgate's got his favourites. Didn't that matter then? Eric Dier's penalty. It's a question worth asking. But I think football-wise, he's definitely should be close. Not discarded. Yeah, he'll pop up in the World Cup probably for England. That'd be good.
Did you watch the Villa game, Russ? Villa Arsenal.
Yes, I did. And I have to
are
say,
you telling me that Tyrone Mings is a better centre back than Eric Dier?
No chance.
No
chance.
Yeah.
No
it's funny because I think Villa fans are also feeling a bit suspect on Tyrone Mings. I do just want to bring it on to obviously Spurs' wing-backs at the moment. Obviously, we touched on Reguilon earlier. And we have seen reports this week, Frank, that allegedly Barcelona, and I think even Fabrizio Romano has stated that, there's an interest there. I'll be honest and say with Reguilon that based on what I saw in that loan period at Seville, I thought it was going to be a player that's going to come in and essentially be a real dynamic wing-back that's going to actually take Spurs forward. I've got to say, so far, although he's scored a couple of goals, I haven't been blown away. So if I'm being honest with you, if the option is there in the summer to go and reinvest that money into somebody else, I wouldn't be dead against it, Frank. Where are you on Reguilon? Are you open to his departure, depending on who comes the other way, or if we go and buy a replacement?
I'm totally unsure, to be honest with you, because on one side, I see that he's got a fantastic engine to play that role. You have to be up and down, and he's got the pace as well. He's not defensively poor, but I just feel in this system, again, as I said earlier, you rely on your wing-backs to put up numbers, goals and assists. And I feel that every time he goes through on goal, which has been 6 or 7 times in the last 3 or 4 weeks, I don't think anyone's confident he's going to stick the ball in the back of the net. And he seems to, today, for instance, he'd rather go to ground and get his shot off. So I'm not saying, the wing-back role is all about being a finisher. I'm not, but I'm just unsure. And I feel if the money's right, we could get £40 million back for him and there's a replacement lined up. I wouldn't be opposed to that. But if we keep him, he's obviously seems to be regularly more available than Sessegnon. Unfortunately, he seems to always forever have injury problems, which is a worry. But, I mean, when he came to Spurs, he was a winner as well, Rick. He'd won that Europa League with Sevilla. As somebody mentioned in the comments, I think he'd got into the Liga Team of the Year. They rave about him in Spain. I know he's at the top prospect over there to take over from Jordi Alba in the national team. But I'll be totally honest, I'm unsure. I don't know. I'm not saying that we should get rid of him, but I'm then again not saying that we should stick our flag on him and make him our number one left wing back for next season. So I'm sort of in the middle with this one. I think he's got probably between now and the end of the season to convince me that he deserves to stay and be a starting wing back in this Conte system.
I think what's interesting, coming over to you, is that, you know, in the period that Sessegnon has been fit up until obviously that injury, he was definitely being more favoured by Conte over Reguilon. So I don't know whether you want to read into that, whether he does see Sessegnon as his preferred choice in that wing-back system. But over with Reguilon, is he a player that you'd be looking to upgrade upon? Have you been disappointed by what you've seen of him since he's come to the club?
I wouldn't say disappointed. I think that's a little bit harsh. I'm with Frank on that. I think I'm not sure. I think that if you, and there's a big if, right, massive capital letters, because Sessegnon's glass, and we pay 30 million for him, and he's done nothing for us pretty much because of he's always been injured. Then he's given a role under Conte, which I believe, and some of the comments are saying as well, that he is better suited to than Reguilon in terms of a wing-back role. We saw him perform some fantastic goals in his Fulham days and all that sort of stuff as a kid. But he is glass, and he's injured yet again, bless him. It's not his fault, right? I get it, but it's a real shame. But being harsh on Sessegnon, we can't have people that are injured. They don't win your football matches, right? It being in the medical table. So, you know, I think that Reguilon having a full season under Conte, which no one's had yet, and having a pre-season under him might make a difference. I don't think he's done. He's not bad. I think he's done probably 70% of maybe where we want him to be, rather than kind of like he's 50-50 or whatever. But I do agree with what Russ said earlier about the wing backs are absolutely critical for Conte. So we need 100%. I think we need 4 brilliant players that are wing backs. And actually, ironically, there wasn't wing backs at the time, but Danny Rose and Ben Davies as a backup, and Kyle Walker and Kieran Trippier as a backup when we had that. That's the sort of thing that we need now. And I think that Reguilon could be a decent backup player if he can't take that on as a number one role. And I'm not sure we can trust Cess on the basis that he's glass. I mean, he's only 21, Reggie's only 25. So, you know, they're not old players that we're talking about here. The only thing I would say about Reggie is that maybe Conte, and this is a guess, right? But maybe Conte thinks he's too slight. Do you know what I mean? He's quite little. He's quite slight. Yeah. He likes a bigger, you know, Decky, for example, versus Brian Hill. He was quite quick when he'd say, "Look, Brian Hill, really good player, but he can't play in this league.
He just can't make it now." Yeah,
it's like a different game." And obviously shipped him out and then got Decky in. And I know he plays in a slightly different position, but that's what he. And now Conte's going, look at the difference. And I'm wondering whether or not you look at Cess and he's stockier and he's broader. He's got a bit more about him than maybe Reguilon has. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking at something that's not there. But you know, I think you look at Doherty on the other side, and he's probably the same the way he's built versus an Emerson Royale. They are fullbacks. Like Reggie and Emerson Royale, fullbacks. They're not wing backs. So it's an area that definitely needs to be addressed. And look, let's have it right. We all thought we were going to go and get a new right wing back. I know we're talking about left wing backs, but we all thought we were going to go and get a new right wing back in January, didn't we? We all thought it. We all thought that old Muscle Man was coming.
Traore,
and he was gonna play him down that side. And for whatever reason, he went to Barcelona, and maybe that didn't work out. But I think it is important that we upgrade. Not necessarily upgrade the players. I don't want to be downbeat on them, but we have to get players in that position that know it. And I think that's the problem. The problem is who plays a system like Conte that are absolutely outstanding wing backs that are not going to go and cost you 50, 60 million. Because again, I mean, I know Frank's on this train as well. You know, I've been a massive Tarek Lamptey fan, and I was saying, look, go and get Lamptey. But based on what I've just said, he's very slight. I mean, he's tiny, and he's really slight. He's also glass.
I'll play 2 games a week either. That's the problem with his
exactly.
And I like the Southampton lad, Livramento. I know he's extra. Today.
Been a few links to him. Yeah, I mean, I just wonder, Russ. You know, it does feel, you know, Conte's system is very much geared around the success of the wing backs. Therefore, do you see it being a really transformative summer for Spurs in that particular area? Because you feel the whole team, it feeds from having real competent, dynamic wing back play.
Yes, absolutely. For all the reasons that's been said and that our viewers are commenting about, if you want to play with the current big boys, for example, Chelsea, obviously Liverpool, Man City, look, compare Reece James to one of our wing backs who crosses the ball, the way he plays football in that position. It's a million miles away. And so the issue is, quite rightly, I think, as Lee said, is, you know, are we going to spend £100 million on 2 wing backs? I don't know. That's down to Daniel and Joe Lewis and the rest of them. But Conte will want players of that caliber, because what's the point? He's a winner. He keeps saying, I am a winner. I am a winner. And we believe him that he's a winner. Now, does he want to be a winner at Spurs, really, in his heart of hearts? And if he does, they're going to have to come up with the money, because I'm telling you, he's not going. He might go on about Dane Scarlett, what a prospect he is, and indeed he is. We all know that. And we hope he has a brilliant career in a Spurs shirt. But he wants ready-made jigsaw pieces ready to go. He doesn't want to finish 4th. He doesn't want to finish 3rd. He doesn't want to finish 2nd.
He wants to win the league. He wants to win the league. He wants to win the league.
That's what it's all about now.
He won't accept, Russ. He won't accept a 3rd or a 4th choice.
No. That's exciting. We shouldn't be worried about that. We've got to change our own mindsets. I'm going to go on a rant, but we've got to change our own mindsets here. We can't get scared because you've pulled an amazing bloke or an amazing woman in a bar. You know, and you take them home. You can't be scared about that. Enjoy it. Enjoy the fact that you've done that, right? And don't keep walking on eggshells thinking, oh, she's going to leave me, or he's going to leave me, or whatever. You know, whatever takes your fancy. This guy is a winner, and this is the reality. And that he's going to push us to that next level, that mentality. But the mentality is not just with the players on the pitch or the board; it's with us as well.
I think he knows Lee as well. I must say, Leo,
believe in me.
I also think, Lee, I don't know if you think about it as well. I think he knows that he's got the fans in the palm of his hand. Fans love him. He knows that. Yeah, he knows that. And again, I think that plays a big factor into it, you know. And I'm not, you know, Chelsea, I'm not trying to kick them whilst they're down, but, you know, fans-wise, atmosphere-wise.
You should be.
No, I can do. But, you know, atmosphere-wise, you know, he's in front of that Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you know, once every couple of weeks, and he hears the noise generated. He wasn't used to that at Chelsea. He was never used to that at Chelsea in terms of that noise acceleration for him, his name being sung every game. He walked off the pitch, they clap in all corners.
I'll give you another example. Again, I've referenced my father-in-law a few times, but he's a Chelsea season ticket holder. When he got the job at Tottenham, he's like, he came out and he said, you got a shocking manager there. I said, you having a laugh? He went, nah, awful. No, you're not going to like him. And, you know, and I was thinking, right, if that's a sample of what they think, they don't like him. Maybe it's because he sued the club and this, that, and the other. But he won them an FA Cup, got to another final, and won them the league. Yeah, that's sometimes the Chelsea mentality is that they're like, you know, it's a given. There's a couple of brilliant comments in there about Spence. Is it Dead Spence?
Dead Spence of Forest.
For Forest or Borough, whichever side he is. Yeah, loads of in there. You know, Dier Spence. Look, I mean, maybe he's a baller. And again, coming back to the point I made when Russ and I were talking about the kind of that transfer bit right at the beginning of the show, it doesn't have to be £100 million players. Like in actual fact, if you look through the history of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, these £100 million or whatever, these massive signings, they don't tend to work out. Like the ones that tend to work out are the ones that we get, not under the radar, but maybe a little bit lower.
It's that in between bracket, the likes of the Sons, the Delis, the DJ and Kulusevskis, the Benton Claws that we've seen.
He was a perfect example, Rick. £5 million, lowered down the leagues, absolute bowler. He was amazing for us. You know, last few years, not so much, but absolutely amazing for us. So maybe that's what we've got to do. The key thing that Jason McGovern, one of our own, always says is that going to keep Conte? Is that we don't know the answer. We don't know. We don't know if that's going to keep. If Spence comes in and does what Bentancur's done, then why wouldn't it keep him? Because it would probably elevate us to the next level. But if backing Conte means that we have to spend 60 million on Tarek Lamptey and 50 million on, you know, another left wing back and 48 million on the left-sided centre back, you know, Pau Torres or whatever. And then we've got to go and buy another creative midfielder. I mean, that's the reality. The reality is that if that's what's got to happen to keep Conte's off, because that ain't going to happen in the summer. Like, we ain't spending 300 million. Like, don't even think about it. It's not going to happen. It hasn't happened ever in our history, and we ain't going to do it. But what we will do is get in players that are going to move our football club up to the next level. But Conte needs to be. Well, Conte needs to sing from the sheet that he's been telling us, right? Which is, we need time, we need patience. And that's what we need. And as Tottenham fans, we are desperate, absolutely desperate for success. We're desperate for trophies. We're desperate for getting back in that top four. We ain't got time. We ain't got time. Conte's on a year's contract left after this season. We ain't got time. But we have to do things differently. And doing things differently means that if we want to go after Luis Diaz, Liverpool, which we did, and we didn't try and do a cut price deal with him. It wasn't a Levy like trying to get a bargain. We went out and put the money at it, but he wanted to go Liverpool. What are you going to do? Like, you know, we are not at that level yet, and we have to suck that up. So we have to shop in a place where players like JWP, like these types of players, will come to Tottenham. You know, we've got Romero, just wax lyrical about him. He plays for our football club. He is our player once we sign him. So we can do it. But not necessarily go up against the Bayern Munichs, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, and go and get them top players. That's the issue.
Yeah, absolutely. Contra time, I just want to squeeze 5 minutes in terms of the top four race there. Just shout outs for, you know, Dier today, as we mentioned, scrapped in the middle of that park, you know, as we touched upon it, but that wonderful Hodoless chip for a big chance for Harry Kane. Couldn't really take it. But I mean, Kane on the day as well had a big chance in the final 10 that arrived for him. A lot, like I said, that unfortunately you couldn't take advantage of. He grabbed the second assist by heading on Lloris's kick to Son. I think it's definitely a case again where Kane looking strong as the season goes on. And as Frankie and Russ have touched upon, would be lovely if he doesn't have to play too many of the international games, but we shall wait and see. Another really strong performance from Dejan Kulusevski, another one that, you know, busy, creative display, really good player there who is, again, growing in the Spurs shirt. But we will go for our final break of the show for our listeners that are on audio. There's still nearly about 1,000 of you watching us live. So thank you so much for your incredible support on a Sunday evening. We're going to close the show, guys, by looking at the top four. Interestingly, Conte said in his post-match presser coming around to you, Frankie, that he thinks Hugo, Son and Kane are transmitting the message to the rest of the squad that Spurs have to push for the top four. And he reiterates, this is absolutely the target. Do you believe now, Frank, putting your neck on the line, that Spurs can achieve a top four finish now?
So for me, it depends on injuries, because if we can keep the nucleus of this team fit and we can stay injury-free, I think we can. I'll stick my neck out and say that, purely because of the fixtures. We've got a very tough away day at Anfield, but if we quickly run through them, we've got to go to Brentford, I believe. Is that one of our games?
Yeah, Brentford still. Yeah.
So if you look at our fixtures now, away games, we've got Villa away, and I thought they were so passive against Arsenal. Yeah. Look at their bench options. There's no quality there. But the Traore coming on, when Dier being substituted again, I don't see it with Villa. They're so hot and cold, so we should win there. Brentford away, I expect to win. Norwich away, and obviously Anfield, you've probably got to write that one off. Hopefully we get that when they're in the run of they've got the FA Cup semi-final. They've got the Champions League as well to contend with. Yep. And then we've got the North London derby at home. When was the last time Arsenal beat us at home in the league? I think 2015, something like that. Brighton at home, Newcastle at home, Leicester at home, and Burnley at home. So you look at that, and I know we looked at the fixtures before with Wolves and Southampton, and we thought we should beat those two teams, and we didn't. But I feel that we can do it. And this is the first time all season that I've felt pretty quietly confident. Again, looking at Arsenal's run as well, that we've got a chance. But as I said, a lot depends on injuries and staying injury-free. I feel we've got some great momentum now. And obviously the North London derby is probably going to be the biggest one in many years. Certainly the one that I can remember. But we've got that at home. And don't underestimate the fact that is the first North London derby at home at this stadium without, I think last time there was 2,000 fans there.
That's right,
The first full house at the new stadium. It will be electric. It will be rocking. The
There's
stadium.
no way we're losing that game.
I don't think we are, Lee, because the stadium can be the 12th man.
Conte, the mentality of Conte as well, having him the manager there.
Look at today, the synergy between the fans and what was going on the pitch. And I think if we can transpire that energy to the players, which we can, and with that massive big stand we've got now. So I'm quietly confident, Rick. I don't want to put the mockers on us, but stay injury free, keep the likes of Kane fit, and we've got a real chance.
Absolutely. Russ, has come over to you. Conte also said after the game that the level of every player is improving. We're becoming a strong team. Honestly, it's a pity to have this international break because in this moment, we're in good form. We're in a good moment. And he actually goes on to say that he would like to see Spurs play Chelsea now to see just how much the level has improved. And I thought that was quite intriguing from his press conference because, listen, he's speaking candidly, in terms of, there was a real now belief. He seems a lot more happier as well. Do you generally now believe Spurs can go on a run and get into that top 4?
We're on a run, aren't we?
Can we continue the run?
Yeah, we can. I mean, look, Anfield is going to be difficult, but as Frank was saying, we could catch them in between really, really big games. City might have won the league by then. Who knows? We might summon up the spirit of Jurgen at Anfield. Who knows what can happen? But our fixtures are more favourable. But I can tell you that most of my colleagues in the media, when you wake up in the morning and you're reading your website, newspapers, and listening to the radio, they'll all be saying Arsenal are in pole position. A great result for Spurs. West Ham are out of it, but still, it's Arsenal's to lose. Well, no, I don't think so. They've got to play us. They've got to play Chelsea away. They've got to play Manchester United. I mean, these are huge games. I mean, they might play Chelsea, funny enough, with no fans, which will help them a little bit. But, I think they have got a tricky run in. I'd be more worried about United getting fourth than them. There you go.
Interesting. I mean, Lee, it's funny, isn't it? Very quickly, because, it's right, as Jimmy says there on the screen there, 4 wins in 5, not been spoken about really in the media. It's actually 5 in the last 7 as well that we've won. So it's interesting. Conte actually went on to say also to finish that press conference, said maybe Arsenal are more ready than us, but in the 5 months we've done a fantastic job with these players. And you can feel the belief from Conte now that he just feels Spurs are coming into their peak at the right time based on the fixtures, Lee. I'm not expecting you to say no because I know you're always the most positive and optimistic Spurs fan I know. But obviously you must feel now we're in a genuine chance for this.
I think we'll finish 8th.
By the way, 16 goals have been scored from us in those last 5 as well.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I said to you earlier. 7 Premier League goals. Our last 7 Premier League goals scored 19 goals. We've only conceded 7. There's Liverpool and Chelsea that have won their last 5 Premier League games. Green all over the gaff. And then the other 2 teams, guess what? Have won their 4 out of 5 Premier League games. Arsenal and Tottenham. Like, you could not make this stuff up. They got to go Palace. They've got to go. Palace have just taken points off the City. They've got to go Palace under the lights at Selhurst Park on a Monday night. That's horrific. But that's down to Tottenham. Tottenham have got to go to Newcastle, beat Newcastle at home, and put the pressure on them. I'm actually surprised that Antonio Conte is not coming out and giving it the old Sir Alex Ferguson mind games. I'll be honest with you. I'd be giving it to Arsenal right now, saying they are in pole position. Absolutely, they're a young team. They've got no experience.
He took a nibble at him, didn't he, during the weekly about this? It's funny, he took a nibble at Arteta during the week about the fixtures, didn't he? So he's almost.
He did. No, I love that. I love that. Like creating. You don't need to create rivalry between Tottenham and Arsenal. Of course you don't. But to get that little bit more in there, put a little bit of pressure on them. They'll be looking at that league table tonight. Don't you worry about that. They will be thinking, "Uh-oh, here we go." Do you know what I mean? They've got to go Southampton. Exactly. Southampton away. Yeah. They've got Arsenal. They've got to play Manchester United. They've got Chelsea away. They've got West Ham away. These are horrendous fixtures. If they were Tottenham's fixtures, we would be crapping it. We'd be capping our pants. But they're not. They're their fixtures. All we can do, is concentrate on our own fixtures. The biggest fixture, as Frank just said, and Russ said earlier in the show as well, you touched upon, the North London derby is massive. We're going to lose that game. It's not going to happen. I said it when it was originally scheduled. I just know in my heart we ain't losing that game. I don't care about these mockers or bockers on there. I'm not. we're gonna go out there and be confident enough to win, and we are on a run already. The Manchester United game was a pain in the butt, but I think that against the Arsenal fixtures, I think we've got a really good chance. The Manchester United fixtures are interesting as well, though, because they've got Everton, they've got Norwich. They're winnable fixtures, but they've still got to go to Anfield like we have. They've still got to go to Arsenal, and Arsenal United drawing. That's a touch. That's a right touch for us.
Perfect.
It's perfect. They still got to play Chelsea. They still got to go Palace away as well. So
West Ham away as well, Lee.
West Ham away. No, I'm talking about Manchester United now. So they've got some tough fixtures themselves. And look, West Ham, although people might say, they're out of it now because their next game's Everton, right? So given the fact that Everton are just giving everybody 3 points at the moment, maybe they get themselves back in there, but they've still got to pay all the teams you just said themselves. It's all up for grabs. It's all up for grabs, and I absolutely believe that it's who wants it more. For me, it's that simple. We know we can beat. Look, Arsenal play 60 minutes against against Manchester City and Liverpool. They press them hard for 60 minutes.
They've pressed them really well for 60.
Yeah, we take Liverpool to a 2-2 draw and batter Man City twice. Yet we don't get even mentioned. Right? No. Don't even worry about it. Let them think they've got it. Let them think that they're going to go and win it. Let them think all that, because they haven't got it and they should be worried. And they're talking about St. Tottenham's Day. That don't even exist anymore. Go do one. 5 years. It hasn't existed. Move on.
Well, to save you all the memes coming, I'm not going to ask you about top four to put your necks on the line. But listen, we've got a huge amount of fixtures coming up in the next few weeks, and Spurs need a run. Unfortunately, we are being halted by an international break, which gives us all a chance to recharge the batteries. We're not stopping at the last word on Spurs. You can see Frank there with the thumbs down, but I can tell you Frankie Major will be joining us again for that Arsenal game whenever it does drop, and hopefully a couple more fixtures between now and the end of the season. Frankie, lovely to have you back on as always.
Great to be back on as always with Russ, who I've listened to for many years, the smoothest voice on radio, and the two best quiffs on YouTube in Ricky and Lee. So honestly, great show, guys. Love talking Spurs. Great day for the result and the performance, and hopefully we can kick on from here. And after this international break, we'll put a run together and finish in that top four.
Absolutely. Fingers crossed. Lovely to have you back on with us, Frankie. Frankie back on throughout the season as well. Russ, lovely to have you on. As Frankie alluded to there, it is a real smooth voice. Where can we hear that smooth voice on a more frequent basis for our last Spurs viewers and listeners?
You can hear me tomorrow morning, Nation Radio, DAB, online, on the app, the Nation Radio player, 10 o'clock in the morning, with Tottenham propaganda occasionally.
I love it. Someone's going to kick it off.
It's been a pleasure, and thanks to everyone who's commented and got involved on the show. And I'm not going to sit on the fence. We will finish fourth.
And Russ will be back at some point to reconfirm that. Hopefully, fingers crossed. Been a real pleasure having you, Russ. Honestly, always a pleasure. Amazing. Lee, come over to you. I know you've got a very busy, frantic finish on your own podcast. Some wonderful guests coming your way. Lee, if anyone hasn't heard about your podcast, come on, give it a mention. We've got a really big, frantic finish coming up for your pod.
Well, it's all about The Apprentice. So if you're into The Apprentice, then please check it out. It's called In the Line of Hire. I won The Apprentice back in 2008. I host the podcast with all the ex-winners that have come on it so far. And I have actually got the two current semi-finalists coming on my show tomorrow, live at 5. So follow me on the socials. I've got Stephanie Affleck and Brittany Carter, who have just been in the interview stages. Unfortunately for them, they finished at that semi-final stage. But it's been an amazing show to find out exactly how that all went on. So if you're into The Apprentice, check that out. What I would say, just quickly back on Spurs and on the top four, 72 points guarantees you top four over the last 10 seasons in the Premier League. And the last 2 seasons, it was 68 and 66 points, respectively. You go and do the math now and start working it out. We're only looking at 8 or 9 wins, and we are 8 wins. I think we can still afford to drop points and still get in that top four. And I think we're going to do it. Come on, you Spurs.
Amazing. Love it. Guys, thank you so much for all your wonderful comments tonight. I've had nearly over 1,000 of you watching us live. So again, thanks for all the love. We're back with you throughout this international break, so we're not going anywhere. But from Russ, from Frankie, from Lee, from myself, guys, keep safe, keep well. As always, Come on, you Spurs.